Blessings and love. I'm so happy to see everyone. It is Ethan here. He is going to be telling us some new protocols, regimens, and
Mm.
fantastic things to add into our life, not just when you are healing, but on an everyday um, course, an everyday journey, every moment, in keeping these things in your frequency and knowledge. I want to also say, Happy winter solstice
Mhm.
in the first quarter. So, this is super cool. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ethan and let him bless you and continue to uplift us.
So, anything specific? That's a
Yes.
lot.
So specifically, let's cover some of the topic areas of your journey since we saw you last, the healing that you have restored, giving them some insight on the accomplishments and the goals that you've reached, just focusing and staying consistent, and the different protocols that you've learned that has evolved you to this point.
Great. Um, so I was in the hospital for 2 months from September 10th, well, to almost 2 months till on October 22nd. And while I was in the hospital, after two head surgeries, I did 7 weeks of antibiotics for head infection. That's why they had to cut out this part of my skull. And there was a tumor that regrew while I was in the hospital, and I started to have numbness and pain on the left side of the body, and it felt like it was going to get paralyzed. My camera's flipped if this is my left side. Um, so the doctors did an MRI, and then they saw a new tumor that grew. So because of this skin graft and because of the recent head surgery, they couldn't do radiation or surgery to address the tumor. So I decided to do a higher dose of chemo than I did in the past. So who knows if that helped or not. But since I got out of the hospital on October 22nd, um, I haven't done chemo again. I've been basically on full on self healing mode. I have a functional medicine doctor, but in the hospital, I couldn't do things like enemas and all these different protocols that I'm doing now, cold baths. So I've just been full on like anti inflammatory mode, detoxing, doing coffee enemas each day. I have alkaline water, so I'm doing alkaline water enemas, um, and some other protocols with my functional medicine doctor. So yeah, who knows if it's the tumor or the inflammation that was making the left side of the body almost get paralyzed at times. But as I've been doing the anti-inflammatory practices, I'm regaining function on the left side of my body. And the last MRI I had, I think it was a week and a half ago, the inflammation was down significantly. The oncologist was actually shocked. She couldn't believe how much it had reduced. And also, she was shocked that the tumor hasn't grown, hasn't gotten smaller yet. But actually, maybe it is, but maybe it just didn't show up in the MRI. But that's pretty amazing. And for the first time since I've talked to the oncologist, she has not recommended chemo. And that's pretty much her job. That's all she's done. Um, I mean, she prescribes MRIs, but that's what she says every time. I need chemo, otherwise the tumor is going to regrow, and um, and it's a very aggressive form of brain cancer. And then also she said because my health is improving, if I take chemo, it won't help the immune system. So she said, I don't want you to take chemo, continue to improve your health, speak to the neurosurgeon, and then see when the next surgery is. And because she wants me to be as strong as possible before they put the new section of skull in. So that's pretty amazing. I mean, that's almost the best news possible.
I totally
And
agree.
and and, and if I had just listened to her, I could have gotten sick. I could have died if I did that higher dose of chemo. And there would have been no liability at all. I'm not mad at her. Everything's working out, but just that's been my reality the past 14 months in these very intense situations. I have to like just take in the data and then meditate for a few seconds and then make a decision. Um, so that's what I'm trying to do even now.
Any of the other areas that, I mean, I know how frustrating it is when you have a doctor that has to look at the Western medicine side and not, integrate. But any of the other areas of holistic and naturopathic things that you've brought up to her that she was shocked actually worked with you? Or have you discussed, your functional medicine at all with her?
Mm, I don't remember. I told her some different things I was doing. I don't think I told her every single thing, but she just said, "Whatever you're doing, keep on doing it."
That's pretty good. So what stage are you in right now in between the surgeries, because the infection is and the inflammation has started to go down, and
Mhm.
that's why they paused, the next surgery. So what's the next step? I mean, how does that affect the stages? Because as this happens, you'll start regress. It'll start, stages will go from 4 to 3 to 2 to, as things begin to shrink and move vastly great, in this direction of healing.
Yeah.
So what is that step? I know that they have to add on to the next area, but what does that look like? What are they stating?
Well, I see my neurosurgeon January 7th, and I think he's gonna be pleasantly shocked also with these
Yeah,
updates. Because last time I saw him, he literally gave me no hope and said there's nothing he can do. There's a new tumor that's growing. They can't treat it now with radiation or surgery, like I said. And the chemo, even if it does work, it could take months. So he just gave me hospice care options and or palliative care. So I'm gonna see him, and either he's gonna say continue to get stronger and heal, and then we'll do the surgery, um, or I don't know. I think it's possible he could say we can't do surgery, but I'm pretty sure they can. I mean, that's been the whole plan. Oh, also they want to see that the tumor is not growing, which it's not. So he might just say, see if you could heal the tumor fully, then we'll do the surgery. Yeah. But yeah, for now it's okay.
right. Can we talk about how strong it is when you're given hopeless diagnosis and to be able to say, you don't have control over my life and I get to determine this? Um, I know within myself and my own, having to live just not knowing, it gave me a sense of being alive in its own way. And now I live knowing that every day, every time I meet someone, every time I'm blessed with the experience of a new connection, that I got another opportunity to live in that moment,
Hmm.
not looking forward, not looking, any other place than this is amazing and this grounding and this root, because, I'm just grateful. I've just reached a point where um, I stopped trying to focus so much on and I know we're going to talk about it, focus so much on the ahead. It's one thing to make sure that we're not staying in the past, but we can also be living in the future so far that we leave the moment of healing in the present. And so I think now my gratitude is just knowing no matter what hopeless situation I'm given, it doesn't matter. I'm only given this moment anyway. And it takes a lot of willpower. It takes a lot of, emotional turmoil to get there. But what has been some of the things for me? It's gratitude every day. What are some of the things for you that you practice?
Hmm. I think it's similar to what I shared before, that first kind of taking in the data, tuning into my own emotions, or if there's any resistance or like reactionary thoughts, and then just seeing what the next step is. I mean, maybe it was hopeless, and maybe I was gonna die, and he was right, and just being present with that. And so that's what I try to do. It's not easy, but I try to do that in every situation, because ultimately I feel like it's all part of God's plan, and wherever it leads is part of God's plan, and eventually it'll lead to leaving my body. So yeah, I'm trying to build up that faith muscle and not get stuck in fear.
What is your greatest time recently growth to where you know you've been in fear, but the spirit of you has risen in such a way that you've begun to physically be visible in healing, and that requires a faith as well. It requires, you know, a hope and a love for self. So, can you touch on some of the things that we talked about in your list of before we had started? Can you touch on those, you know, areas?
Sure. um, well, maybe it's helpful for people to hear that you thought it might be helpful if I create like a, how did you describe it?
I like to call it a steps, you know, because some we have to take it back to basics. So it's kind of like building the foundation. So it's a 5 steps or so ever many steps in processing and then being able to initiate the healing. So it's kind of like, okay, step one, you know,
Yeah,
acknowledgement,
yeah,
sitting with that. Step two, acceptance, sitting with that. And step
right.
three, you know, releasing the past, accepting the present, and being open to the future and
Hmm.
with no judgment. And so those are the kind of areas and steps that I do with myself, with clients, with anyone that I am any blessing to in servitude. I just take that time and just go back through the steps and enjoy the moment.
Right. Yeah, and this, I just thought of this as a few minutes ago as we were talking, that it would be awesome for me, and maybe even more, like more effective, if people wanted to work with me. It could be for free if they wanted to donate to my brain cancer healing, but I can kind of guide them through each of these steps and really help them understand them and help them use them better. So I thought that would be kind of cool. Um, so yeah, we can talk about that. But the five steps, or I titled it "Five Tools to Support You in Transmuting Every Area of Your Life into Higher Frequencies of Embodiment, Empowerment, and Love." So or not step one, these can be in any order. Um, the first tool is what's happening now in the present. And there's so much there that can be looked at. And tool number two is leveraging the past. So, quite literally, every experience from childhood, if there are any traumas, if there are any skills you've cultivated your whole life, how can you leverage them to serve, which is the next tool, your vision? So, the vision, it's possible that you had this vision your whole life since you were a child. And I feel like if these dreams are still in your heart now, then it's worth exploring. There's a power in them, they're real. So, that's tool number three, co creating your vision with the universe from this exact moment. Tool number four is what practices do you already do that can support your vision, and what new practices can you, like, what practice program can you create for yourself? Not going online and finding somebody else's workout video or affirmations or anything like that, but actually being your own, because you know yourself best. So, how can you create a system that would support you leveraging your past and co-creating your vision? And then the fifth tool is affirmation. So this is something very simple, but it's important, I think, that it's your affirmation. It's not just one that you find online or even one that's been used thousands of years, but for you, and taking into account your past, what's happening in the present, and your vision, what affirmation would be really supportive for you? So these are the five tools. Um, the present, leveraging the past, celebrating your vision, that's the third tool, co-creating your practices with the universe, that's the fourth tool, and then continually feeding your affirmation, that's the fifth tool. Simple, but that I found them to be really helpful.
sometimes I think our society gets into all of these complexities and all of these processes and this and that, and it's the simplicity. If we lived simply, we can
Mm,
also heal simply. And it's a mind body medicine connection that is powerful, and that mind connecting into the body, into the manifestation within all of our universe, practice, attraction,
mm,
laws of nature, all playing a part, all systematically intertwining when we align with the ideals that we want, that we've seen from childhood, and then to
mm,
know that it's manifesting in God's will, and that we are
mm,
in that will and we are well. And just sitting in the faith of that, sitting in the love that we can create these things for our own healing, for ourselves. We
mm,
can create this ultimate healing that we so often look to physicians and others to give us, but it's within. And I know through all of my experiences, and all of the experiences I've learned from all of the beautiful souls before me who have helped teach me, who have also helped grow me and grow with me, learn with me. I found these experiences, you can't get them through regular medicine. The healing within that you can't find. It's not there, it's not available, because there is that connection that's left out, which is the alignment, which can't
yeah,
be seen, which is the thing that is controlling the inflammation with just the energetic situation within you, and that empowerment that you've embodied since this happened. It is now in its own sense of physical sense of decrease, decrease,
yeah,
decrease, decrease. You will decrease. And just that affirmation of telling the mind, reprogramming the mind,
mm,
reprogramming the body, it will align back into that realm. I know for me, when I've went through my spinal surgery, decided that I was reconnecting the tissue when I was spiritually going in and doing that guided imagery, and going into the empty disc and
mm,
into the shattered areas, and then mending and using my own manifestation of mending and asking, what is it that I need? Is it more marrow? Is it more iron? And then just calling forth, what is it that is needed in this area? And
mm,
that is the healing. That is the infinite magic, if you will, that comes in. And like the wind, you can't see it. You could just see the movements and the objects in its force. So I love what you are doing. I love that, you are sharing those things with the world. And yes, more than happy to help you out with that, more
mm,
than happy to help you grow in the areas of being the teacher while you're still healing, because the healing takes years. Once you've
yeah,
went through so much, trauma, people don't understand. If you've went through chemo, once the chemo's over, that's just one portion. The healing of the cellular level after the chemo takes years,
yeah,
for the body to realign. It takes years for us to feel normal. And if you have to consistently do it, there has to be a massive healing before, during, and after, to just keep it together. Plant medicine has been phenomenal for you. You shared that before. Using earth to heal
mm,
naturally. And as you know, our cells are made of plants, and,
mm,
the same organisms from the stars, and I mean everything we could take in and begin to feed in those areas that are void, that the body's trying to replenish. So I just appreciate you so much. Is there any areas you want to emphasize out of those protocols that you've made that is your favorite?
well, interesting you mentioned that because I have some different healers I work with, and one of them suggested the other day, like doing some more shadow work with the past. So what I did is started to create a list, like from childhood up until the present, as if I was going to make a biography, because I am. And I think the best person to create a biography for ourselves is not necessarily someone else, but most people, it's like, who knows ourselves better than us? even though you could call it an autobiography, but I'm writing a biography for the past, who I used to be. And then after that's done, I'll create an autobiography from that moment forward. So, yeah, from as far as leveraging the past goes, that tool, yeah, I've just been going back to the past and looking at recurring themes, recurring relationship patterns, recurring things that have still been with me now or they were with me as an adult. So that's one way we could leverage our past. Um, so that's a really powerful tool. And these things are cool because people could write them down. And I think writing is really therapeutic. So, and different communication practices, like as if I was that little boy's big brother and angel, I've been just speaking to him and sending him healing. And because on the quantum realm or beyond time and space, it doesn't even exist. So if we bring healing to our past, it can quite literally heal our present and our future. And this is part of family lineage healing. And I think this is part of what the world is doing. We're healing previous generations who have created a lot of the stress in the first place and forgiving them, forgiving ourselves. So yeah, this is all leveraging the past or and transmuting the past too. And if we like, how are we going to do this in the world if we can't do it with ourselves? Like even just like the Native Americans, rightfully so, they're upset about what's happened with them. African Americans, in their own way, rightfully so. Many other people. So maybe this is part of the Christ consciousness energy of. I think he talked a lot about forgiveness, compassion, those types of energies. So maybe it's this is what's happening in our lives, and this is how we're going to do it with our brothers and sisters. You know, because the past, I know for me, I've had to do a lot of forgiveness work with all these. It's almost like resentments against who I used to be, because that's who co-created the tumor in the first place, in a sense. So yeah, these are powerful practices that maybe it's like trying to find them. Yeah, maybe we're all doing this in our own way, individually and collectively. So it's kind of a cool thing. If we get a group of people doing these together, I mean, I would even love to facilitate this. That would be so much fun. Create so much good synergy, and like we could share any challenges or share successes, you know?
Absolutely. I absolutely, would love to help you facilitate that in whatever way. These are powerful tools that few get an opportunity in these latter stages of trauma, in the latter stages of physical illness, chronic, terminal, whatever that looks like. It gets to that point where you're at the end and you don't have to wait until you're at the end to do this. You don't have to have that self realization at this point. I know that these previous generations that are going to heal through the current generation, that if we don't accept and acknowledge, we no longer can expect a greater world.
Mm,
We can't expect it, in any consciousness because we've chosen to stop the will.
mm,
We all have free will, but if we choose to stop the will, then we choose to close the portals. And then that is within our own realm, and that's our choice, in this factor. And as the universe allows things to align in its own nature, you know whether we are exiting or entering whatever realm within the energies that continue in life, I know that when we leave this physical body, there is still work to be done. There is still, the message must continue until that generation hits and resolves. And
mm,
so, in my essence, it's been a 2020 came to unearth. And in my own spiritual practice as a practitioner, I know that teaching those that I am guiding, it is a matter of awareness. It is a matter of consciousness, and it is a matter of true nature truth, as in my inner child is still starving
yeah.
from when I was 3. That kind of truth. And when we acknowledge that I haven't nurtured that area, there's a healing that comes in, spiritually, and then that healing of that cellular level that was happening with the trauma, and the immune system decreasing from so much of that pain begins to also go back and then resolve those cellular levels of sickness. I truly believe the power of the healer inside of all of us. That's why I love being a healing mentor. That's why I love
Mm.
those that we are around to teach them you are the ultimate healer. You have to understand that, because if you don't, then we're leaving it up to whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. I'll just let it just flow and not really operate into the power that we were given in the first place. So I guess people have gotten comfortable with, well, I guess I get it next lifetime. Well, well, how does that work? This is
Yeah.
now. This is the lifetime. And the moment we realize in quantum that time doesn't exist, this is the lifetime. And then the
Yeah.
next we just morph and we just morph. But as long as we keep that, the weight of the bitterness and resentment, and just find the peace of letting go, then the let go is when we it's almost like, when we're pulling a rucksack of 80 pounds, and the moment that we're like, it's hurting so bad, in the moment we let go. And like you mentioned, sometimes it's forced to let go, and God's got to just for you to finally heal. And it's all cut. The tree is completely pruned to be able to flourish back in new growth. Um, but now I see it as the pruning has happened, and now it's the maintenance of the tree.
Mm.
The tree must maintain what it needs, like it naturally should, when the leaves fall down, to nourish the ground, to be able to accept that even though it was dead weight, is now the fuel that gives my roots the necessary means to grow taller, in that light. So it's powerful that, to connect in this way. It's powerful to be able to see a man that was given no hope to manifest healing and physically show within the weeks, I am healing nonstop, with or without your acknowledgement.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, part of it that's been helpful for me is starting from that inner healer, but using that space to attract any support I might need.
Hmm.
Like, but starting from the inside and like y- seeing what do I have control over? My mind, my breathing, a few other things, and maximizing what I have control over. And then really just praying as hard as I can and asking for what I need. I've been trying to practice that, receiving, slowing down, like letting go, and also asking, just asking the universe if I need money, if I need help, if I need my work to be promoted, just communicating. I feel like, I think Neil Donald Walsh, he wrote Conversations with God. I think he said God speaks to us in our own language, which is kind of an interesting thing. So I feel like whatever language we speak, we should just talk to God, however we think of God, and just like literally a conversation. And I think we can do
It's
that.
that
So I've been
simple.
trying to do, yeah, it's that simple. And I can't necessarily in 1 second say, God, please heal me now. But I could say that, and then all these miracles will happen. And maybe there's just a little time delay because I'm stuck in my human ego, but that's that's how I've been doing it.
I think, when we realize that when we speak, I like that you said that. And the first thing that came to my spirit is the reason that he speaks to us in all of our own languages, because we are our own universe. And
Mm,
within that universe, in our own languages of our experiences and who we are, no one can speak to that, but him. And
mm,
so, being able to, some people, I think, the moment we let go of the realm of society and what it looks like, what God looks like, there is no form, there is no light, there is none of that. He is encompassing all
mm,
omnipresence. And so, every single light, dark, in between, like when we sit in it and realize it is all for us, like that had to happen in order for this healing to come, in order for so there is no, I guess you can say, bad,
mm.
because you understand what I'm saying. It's like there's no bad, it's pretty much the process. And so, I think in that light of universal healing. I'm feeling the presence of, yes, I can feel that I'm angry and I know he understands. And so if I'm yelling and shouting and screaming and cussing and fussing, he already knows that's my language in that moment. He knew exactly where that came from. And
Mm.
nobody can stop that type of communication with your source because the source was there from the beginning. And that's
Yeah.
when that, agape love of unconditional love, which we all want for our own beings and our relationships in the physical realm, but that agape love of, I know exactly where you're coming from. Come with me, child. Let me love you. And that's what we need to understand the God in us is saying. I know exactly where that pain comes from.
Mm.
Come with me, child. Let me come back to you as the person you needed, and let me nurture you as the God that you needed because it was there. You were there. The communication is there in the
Mm.
universe. And so I find love. I find love in all of these conversations, and it's so beautiful. I find that
Mm.
love. Um, but we're going to go ahead and close, and we're going to reach back once we got all of this kind of broken down in segments and take it one step at a time in elaboration for our next calls.
Mm.
Because, step one, and then the elaboration of what that looks like for you. And in that experience alone, the power of, oh my God, this man was given no hope and he just healed this impossible. How does that work? How can that
Mm.
be for me?
Mm.
So that's what they got to look forward to. So, any last words, Ethan?
No, thank you so much for your support and this your friendship and this,
Yes.
was this a podcast conversation? I don't know. It's
Yes.
awesome.
It
So,
is it is awesome. It is our healing. That's what the healing conversations. That's what it's going to end up being, our healing conversations because as, a, spiritual worker, it's like just the blessing within seeing. It's like when somebody says, "Can you see your breath?" and you finally believe
mm.
because you got to see the breath. And it feels like that for people to
Yeah.
feel, to see, to know, to touch,
Mm.
in the energy. So
And maybe
blessings and love.
people, yeah, you too. Yeah, I'm excited to see who views this, and maybe there's people who are just like, this is what they were looking for, and we get to offer that.
Absolutely. All right, my love. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. And
Awesome.
I'm going to reach out to you afterwards, and you and I will be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Blessings. Bye bye.
Blessings. Bye.